Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the Planning Commission meeting to order on August 26th, 2026 at, is it 6:31 p.m. Let's start with roll call, beginning with staff and then followed by commissioners.
Jack Sword.
Antoinette McVeigh, Town Clerk.
Sarah Catanzaro, Town Manager.
I guess I should add that Jack Stewart is the town planner.
Peggy Smith,
Andy Miller.
Katie Souls,
Margaret Bowles.
And Bob Ganussi. All right.
Peggy, are you on your microphone?
Yep.
Okay.
This will be a slightly different meeting tonight since we don't have any applications to take a look at and hear, and nothing requires us to have a public hearing open tonight. So we'll basically be having a planning session together with our town planner, Jack Seward. Next on the agenda would be the approval of, next on the agenda would be public comment. If we have anyone here from the public or anyone joining online that has a comment to make that doesn't concern anything that's presently on the agenda, we'll give them an opportunity to speak.
If anyone online would like to speak, please raise your hand.
So this would be regarding any items that are currently not on tonight's agenda. If you have a comment, we're welcome to hear you. If not,
I'm not seeing any hands.
okay. All right. So may I have a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting?
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
All right.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Now I'd like to have a motion to approve the consent agenda, which basically consists of last month's meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. We will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is basically going to be a code amendments workshop, which will be moderated by Jack. So Jack, let me turn it over to you.
All right. Well, let's get the
Jack has a fancy PowerPoint presentation.
I don't know if fancy is the right word, but I definitely know how to use the template. And so don't let's not get too excited. So we were going to start this conversation last month. Then we all decided that we had been here long enough and we're going to save it for later. So part of this is what we were going to talk about last month. And then since we've got a little more time on our hands tonight, I have expanded it so that we can, well, I've also added the things that we were going to tackle at this meeting, but combined it with the things we were going to tackle at last meeting. So this is kind of a timeline that I want to keep in mind for us as we talk about amending the code. If we want something to take effect January 1st, 2027, which I feel like is a good time for new things to take place, then working backwards, we would want to spend August and September discussing here at Planning Commission our draft of any code amendments. We'd then want to spend September and October soliciting stakeholder feedback. So that will be through a couple of different methods. We host a town hall meeting with the community here in this room. We'd ask for written comment, and then we'd meet with our developers, or I'm willing to bet they will want to meet with us because they tend to be very good at telling us what they think about our ordinances and our rules. We could then target a public hearing in October for an initial approval by the planning commission, and then that would enable the board of trustees to take up the matter in November and December, recognizing that they're also working on the budget during those 2 months. So we'd have to find the right place to fit that in. And then if we get it done in November, that will enable us to have it take effect on January 1st. That's if January 1st is an effective date that you care about. I pick that out of the air. We choose different effective date. This timeline would change, but again, working on off of that as an effective date. So to give us some background, the last time we did a major code amendment was in 2018. That we combined at the time what was chapters 15, 16, and 17 into what is now chapter 19. The code currently includes an outdated review process. It's also not kept up with market conditions here in Fraser. And well, we've amended it since 2018. As you are all aware, it's been piecemeal. And so the conversation that Bob and I had was that we wanted to take a more holistic approach at the land development code. That's chapter 19 as a whole, to make sure that those things are fitting together and working the way we want them to. I'll also note that when I started back in May, the first thing that every developer told me that I talked to was that this process is slow and it takes too long. Maybe we want it to take a long time. Maybe we don't. That's a decision that you all can make, but that is the number one piece of feedback that I have gotten from every person that I have spoken to, is that they think our review process takes too long.
How many people is that?
That would be Grand Park, Rendezvous, out west, and then our friends at the Fraser Valley Distillery, and then a couple
Okay.
of other private
Good.
parties.
Okay, good, thank you.
So again, that's just some feedback that I've gotten. What am I missing, Sarah? You gotten any similar feedback?
No, I'm just curious from your experience, not that this should be weighted heavily necessarily, but would developers generally make that complaint about most municipalities' review process, or do you think that there is a difference here in Fraser?
I think we're way faster than some of the big municipalities that can take years. I also think that the two developers that do most development around here and speak loudly on this take a long time to get their things reviewed, not because of the town, but because
Yeah.
of them.
Okay.
So I think that's
And I
about.
just want to weigh that feedback kind of in that
Yeah.
larger context.
Maybe we should get some input from Winter Park. Peggy, you gotta use your mic. Yeah. If we could get some input from Winter Park since they're here.
Since Brian's here,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
we could.
That
we
was
could
going to
ask
be
him.
my next question to you is, did any of those developers say the same thing about Winter Park?
Yeah, I didn't ask him, but I certainly can. Do people?
There's only one that has worked with both towns.
Yep.
Yeah, Rendezvous.
Do developers complain about how long your review process takes?
Yes, and I've worked in multiple jurisdictions, and as Sarah said, I think it's natural for developers to always want to go faster than what the process allows. And they've got to submit applications that are complete in order for planning divisions to review them.
Yes. Yes, I'm just
Yeah.
sharing the feedback
Perfect.
that I received because I was the new guy. Still am the new guy, technically. Nobody's been hired since me. So the first thing people told me was that it takes too long. So just sharing that with you all. Maybe we're fine with it. I think that we do great compared to other jurisdictions I've worked in where it's been like, you could have like babies before you've gotten something approved.
Multiple babies.
I mean, yeah, it's just like a long process. So I sent an email out to all of you. I got some feedback from most of you that we all kind of felt the same way about wanting to clarify the review process so that we liked the current things that are administrative reviews that staff does. There wasn't any consent. Nobody said that they wanted staff to do more and the planning commission to do less. There was And then there was generally nobody had any thoughts or comments regarding our review timelines. Again, back to, do we think this is taking too long? I will note on review timelines, Proposition 123 does require that to meet for the municipality to be in compliance with no, what am I getting wrong here? Oh, okay, sorry. I'm like, what am I getting wrong? I'm like, what am I getting wrong here? Prop 123, in order for us to be compliant with that, requires the review process for a complete application to take no longer than 90 days. But the proposition does include the term complete. And so if you don't give us something that's complete, it's gonna take longer.
Clock starts over.
And the clock starts over each time until we get to a complete application.
So now, a review, not approval? On that, on 123?
It's a good question. It doesn't, the whole process.
Okay.
So include the proposition says that the project should be, from an entitlement perspective, should be entitled within 90 days. So from application received to approval.
So what about conditions? Does it say it's supposed to be done, or we can have 2 pages of conditions? That's a good question, huh?
I don't know the answer to that question. Our affordable housing expert is who I'm looking at here.
Yeah, I don't know offhand. We could look at that. I would imagine you could still have conditions. And again, like if the developer's not providing things in a timely manner, there's only so much we can do. But the idea is that you bring affordable housing online quicker and provide an additional incentive in terms of prioritizing that and helping to reduce the cost by them not spending months on the review process.
Yeah.
So Prop 123 is just for affordable housing, or is that a rule for?
That's a good question. That's just affordable housing. So it's targeted to, we passed into code affordable housing incentives. And so Prop 123 applies to projects. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Sarah. It applies to projects that are specifically affordable housing. And then it asks municipalities to implement incentives for that affordable housing, right? Is that your understanding of it?
Correct. The requirement is the fast tracking. I mean, they love for us to offer incentives as well, but they require the fast tracking and that needs to be in place by the end of this year, correct?
Correct.
They have their definition. We can use a more generous definition. So I believe, I could be wrong. I believe Garrett at some point, there was a workshop where he kind of presented the different definitions of affordable housing that have been used or metrics in terms of Prop 123, what we were using for our incentives in terms of trying to kind of align and work with one, not that we have to, but just for simplicity's sake, that if you were qualifying for fast tracking, you're also qualifying for incentives sort of idea.
Yeah. And so we've done the incentives part. We haven't done the fast tracking part yet. So the reason why I came up with January 1st is because Prop 123 says we have to have that in place by December 31st. So if we have something taking effect January 1st, we've met that deadline. That's where I picked that out of the hat. We could say we just want to focus on Prop 123 and save all the rest for later. I thought, after talking with Bob, that if we're going to go into this and talk through these things, we might as well take a more holistic look at the code instead of doing it piecemeal, seeing where we can find efficiencies across the board. And so that is kind of the approach that I set out on as I started reading it. And, I read the code cover to cover on my first day of work. And so that is, just Sarah made fun of me for it. But
You read it cover to cover before your first day of work, which is admirable.
it was the night before. I consider that the same period. But yeah, so it was, that's what I started thinking about and looking through. So that's kind of when we talk about review timelines, we want to make sure that, please tell me what your thoughts are here. But if we want to be targeting those Prop 123 fast track timelines, I am of the opinion that as our code is written at present, you could fully entitle a project in 90 days, assuming that you meet all of our conditions.
But 1,000 acre project, I mean,
From,
But that wouldn't all be affordable housing.
that would be
Yeah.
you could entitle an affordable housing project in 90 days,
Okay.
which is what Prop 123 asks of us.
So Prop 123, I'm sorry, state law or?
It's state law, yes.
Yeah, okay, and only refers to
It-
affordable housing?
Yeah.
Okay,
And Andy, just for further clarification, it's something that we have to implement in order to remain eligible to apply for
for
Prop
financing.
123 funds.
Gotcha.
So they have a few different requisites. This is one of them. One of them is an update to our water study linked to housing and potential growth. And then we have to actually produce a certain percentage increase of affordable housing. Fraser's inventory for affordable housing was very limited in terms of actual like deed restricted affordable housing. So we will blow that requirement out of the water just with St. Louis Landing. Subsequent years, we'll have St. Louis Landing as part of that baseline. So hitting that target of increasing that amount becomes more difficult, but those are kind of the main
you don't get,
requirements
you don't
to be
get credits when
eligible.
you're way over?
I'm sorry.
You don't get credits when you're way over? or you just,
don't,
oh,
which I would argue with that
That's-
policy, but they want us to continue to strive for better, I guess.
yeah, but that doesn't make any sense as
Yeah.
far as what the need is, so be worth talking to the state legislature.
And my understanding is that a lot of municipalities are finding it difficult to meet targets. One thing you can do is you can regionally kind of share units. So for example, if we were to be able to meet it with St. Louis Landing and we have extra units, we could share them with, Winter Park or, other municipalities in the region. And we have to, I think, sign a resolution stating that we're sharing those units. So there's some ways to be creative about that. Like if we know
Yeah.
we've got units coming on in this 3-year period and someone else has units coming on in another 3-year period.
And a
But-
lot of that stems from what the governor proclaimed in 2024 to be the #1 priority of the state, which was to increase the supply of affordable housing.
Sure, but the math is, yeah.
The math doesn't necessarily support that, but the governor came out and said that the #1 priority of the state is to increase the supply of affordable housing. And so the legislature has, as legislatures do, gone about trying to execute on that goal. And so then we get this nice thing, Prop 123, that then is what it is.
I did notice that Polis took on 5 roommates when he did that, right? Or in the governor's mansion?
I don't think he lives in the governor's mansion.
No?
I think he lives in Boulder and commutes to Denver every day. But yeah, so that's kind of where we're at. But Peg, back to your question, this is designed specifically for affordable. If it's a regular run of the mill, if there's no affordable component to it, then it doesn't meet the definition of affordable housing, and therefore we don't need it to take 90 days or less.
so what have we been using as a guideline for non-affordable housing, just general? In the past, has it been 90
mean,
days?
The code has language in it right now that says that we have a timeline on from when we receive an application to how long staff has to get back to the applicant, determining whether or not the application is complete. And then once we determine the application is complete, we have 16 days to go out to all of our referral agencies and ask them for feedback on that. I'll tell you, our referral agencies don't love that 16-day period. They would like longer,
But now
but
it's business days. We changed that to business.
I-
days.
we
Was
didn't
that in
we
the
didn't
process?
change it. The code uses the term days, and Jack is interpreting the term days to mean business day.
So that's something we can change with these amendments. We can spell out.
Correct. The previous town planner interpreted it to be calendar days. I interpreted it to be business days,
Let's make it clear in the code.
but
yeah.
we certainly want to make it clear in the code.
And in sync with that, we've used the word applications being complete as the go flag.
Correct.
Okay. So are we sure that everybody, it's clear to everybody what complete means. We really need to look at that.
The code the code says that staff is to evaluate the application to determine if it is complete and contains all required components. That is the staff is the final arbiter on that. So if I say it's not complete, I have
Okay.
5 days to make that determination. And then if that doesn't occur, if I say it's not complete, then the next phase doesn't start over, and we stay in that 5-day period until you give me a complete application, which on one application, we're now on the 11th go around. So we'll get to
Okay.
completeness eventually.
Okay.
So is it realistically to expect people that we can't control to do it in 16 business days?
I don't think it is. But
That is kind of arbitrary. I don't know where they come up with that, but
It's 3 weeks. I mean, yeah, that's business days, so.
I will say, as folks are making better use of AI, some people have more time than they used to. Seriously.
yeah, I mean, the feedback that the town engineer has shared with me is that it is hard for them to complete the thorough, comprehensive review that we expect out of the town engineer. That's
They've
Merrick.
got the biggest task for sure. So.
In that time period. Our lawyers also tend to give me things the day that they are due. As far as
If we increase it by 4 days, it'd be 4 weeks, and then you call that pretty much a month. I mean, so seems like that wouldn't be too much of a delay for the developer. It's just basically we've got part of a week already with 16 days. Just maybe.
do you want to say 30 calendar days? That makes the math easy.
Yep, does. Yeah.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I think that
Basically gives you a month. I mean, 30 days is usually a pretty good metric for these type of things. So.
okay. 30 days. Of course, we can do it faster. We will try to do it faster, but that'll essentially what happens is when you reach that mark, I can't accept comments from anyone anymore. So if they miss the deadline, it is written into our annexation agreement with our largest developer that if comments are not returned to him by the end of that deadline, it is deemed approved, regardless of anything else. So we work very hard to make sure that we are meeting those deadlines so that
And we
nothing is
should
deemed
make it
approved.
a vote.
and then, so you've got a month. We have then maybe 2 months if we're sticking with this 90-day rule. What happens in the next 2 months?
Yeah, and so we then need 14 days to post for a public hearing before you all. And then we need if you approve something, we then need another 14 days to post before the board. And so again, I think if we're going to go to 30 days here, the fastest you could do something would be 60 days, assuming that you lined up because you all only meet once a month, right? And so if, it might take longer
Probably be
depending
longer.
on with that. So, that assumes that, fully entitled, approved. I think reasonable people could agree or disagree about what, fully approved means. If there are conditions, is it fully approved? That'll push us right up against that 90-day limit. Again, that only applies to our affordable housing projects. But we try to be consistent across the board, recognizing that a 1,000-acre development is going to require a different level of review than a 4-unit deed restricted, quadruplex, which we actually got one of those yesterday. So we also need to balance the two types of reviews that we're doing. But in both cases, we're going through, a site plan analysis. We're going through a zoning analysis. We're reviewing the construction documents, their utility plans.
It's a lot.
There's a lot that we on the staff and our consultants do to evaluate all of that information. And, it's Jack spends a lot of time staring at his computer screen, measuring the distance between lines But you know, that's what I'm here for. I'm just saying that takes time. And so 30 days is great. You might expect to get some pushback from that from our applicants who would like that to be faster.
I don't even think you need AI to determine the distance between computer lines. So I think it's in your word processing program. Anyways,
Yeah.
It's a bad example. Yes, it's a bad example. But I think that we're all kind of have some consensus here about what we're thinking on that process. So that brings us to public notice and what we had talked about at the, oh,
sorry,
goodness.
Jack, is that time period set in the annexation agreement?
Which one?
This
The
20-day,
deemed approved?
30-day? Yeah, what's the time period in the annexation agreement?
The
for
time period in the annexation agreement is 30 days.
30 days, okay, good.
Yeah.
So we're consistent then?
Yes.
Yeah.
But only those properties in the annexation agreement do we run into the deemed approved.
Right, but I mean, still, yeah.
For everything else, it's one of those things like, yep, didn't make the deadline, sorry.
Yeah.
Type situation. Nothing happens. The other thing that the code currently says is that there are 30 days. The town board has 30 days from the date that the planning commission recommends approval to take up the issue. Now, it has been our practice that if the planning commission has conditions on their recommendation for approval, until those conditions are met, we don't bring that to the Board of Trustees. I think a strict reading of that section would say that regardless of if those conditions of approval have been met, you have 30 days to dispense with that.
Well, but the onus is on the developer to meet the conditions, so. And if they don't meet them in a timely fashion, there should be some,
What about the
way
ones they can't meet in 30 days?
well, then
Yeah.
that deadline shouldn't apply, so.
But again, a strict reading of that section. So I would propose that we add a word or two or three into that to enable us that, you know, you have to be able to, like, it has to be realistic that you meet those things. So,
Well, same language you use for your staff deems it complete, the application complete, you would have to deem the condition as complete. If the developer didn't meet that threshold, then that 30 days could be kicked out, could be lengthened.
yes. So I mean, right now, the way the code is written is it says that the board shall take up the matter within
Change
30
that,
days.
saying change that, yeah.
Well,
Wait,
but
I'm
if
getting
they
confused.
don't meet the conditions, then the board could take it up and not approve it because they didn't meet the conditions.
Well, it's,
But why waste everybody's time?
yeah.
I
really.
know. So I'm just saying that the onus is on the developer if he wants to have the process work smoothly in his favor, is to get all the conditions met before Board of Trustees picks it up.
Right. And I think what we're saying is that some of those you might not be able to meet in 30 days.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
But on those conditions, couldn't you address that in the verbiage on the condition? To say if, our policy of setting conditions, if it would be physically impossible for that condition to be met due to time of the year or extraneous, then, that would be allowed an extension, something like that?
Not as the code is currently written.
Okay.
So,
Or could we adjust the code to say this condition must be met by June 30th?
the way I would would amend the code would be to say the board shall take up the matter within 30 days unless a condition has not been met. Or, I mean, we'll workshop it with the lawyers, but, you know, unless such longer period of time is required to meet conditions of approval or something
Or
like that.
Well, let me ask a question. The Board of Trustees, do they not approve things with conditions?
Yeah, we do.
Well, then, yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. But then, so what's wrong with the way it is now?
Because with the board, you still, as Peggy said, you don't want to waste the board's time. If those conditions are critical to approval, you want some pressure on the developer to get those resolved before it moves on to the board, so.
And I think we've had we're in the middle of a lawsuit basically over what was conditionally approved that 5 years later, oh, well, now we want to turn over everything to the town and get everything approved. We still haven't gotten an agreed upon conservation easement, 5 years. So if we had said, no, you're not going to start construction on this till we get a conservation easement, we wouldn't have had this problem.
And there needs to be some, and a staff review again could be used for this. I think there ought to be some language that staff deems that these conditions have been met or are in the process now for the board to consider the proposal. So.
Yeah, and so I'll come back to you next month with actual language. I just wanted to see what your thinking was to guide the language there. So I think I've gotten some good feedback there on what we want that to be. The next three items were stuff that we talked about at the June meeting. And so I just want to confirm that we're all in agreement that we want to add to the public notice requirements some sort of sign on the property. So right now, all you do is get it, it gets mailed to people within 200 feet. It gets put in the newspaper. The county requires you to also put up a sign. The feedback I got from you all back in June was that maybe you wanted the sign. Just want to confirm where we're thinking on that. Okay. The next one was on forms and checklists. They are currently appended to the code. So anytime I want to change a checklist or a form, I have to amend the code. I would ask that we change the code to say, because this is what most of state statute says, is in a form and format prescribed by staff. And that way, if we need to change the form to be more detailed or, we learn things in a year that we don't know today, we don't have to come back to you and change the code. How does that sound?
Change the form, you mean, yeah.
Change the form without changing the code. Right now, if
Right.
I were to change
Yeah,
the
yeah.
form, I have to change the code. Because
So
the
it's-
code says all applications shall be made using the form and appendix whatever.
Yeah,
And that
Hmm.
makes my life very difficult. And then
What about the consistency of keeping consistent forms? For,
well, it's not going to be
people.
different based off of, we are transitioning to an online application process.
Mhm.
And so that will enable us to, everything will be consistent with the online system. But technically speaking, again, a strict interpretation of the code says that the only application form I'm allowed to use is the paper form appended to the code at appendix A1 and through A3.
Gotcha.
And so in order for us to bring online this, application processing system, which will make everybody's life easier, we need to adjust that section of the
Okay.
code.
That makes sense. Thank you.
And then I would like to make our signature blocks gender neutral. Right now, it says his everywhere, recognizing that applicants might not necessarily be a he.
Okay.
Hopefully you don't mind.
That makes sense.
Okay. Those are the things. Okay. So, looking to the building code next. How do we want to handle building permit extensions? The code right now says you have 24 months from the date of your building permit being issued to complete the work. It says that if you go for 180 days without doing any work, you've abandoned the work and the building permit is null and void.
can we differentiate between commercial and residential on this?
We can do whatever we want here.
Seems like a higher standard for commercial would be, because it's in the middle of everything. We've had that issue in the past. I mean, residential, I think we still want to make a little bit more latitude for people trying to build their own place. And I know that's been a problem in town, but it's in a residential neighborhood where things are not quite as sensitive as they are downtown.
Might be if you were the next door neighbor.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
What? If you're the next door neighbor.
I will say we have an experience that we're working through where a building permit was issued in 2019
Wow.
Yeah.
and the project is nowhere close to being completed. And so our building official is asking for some guidance
Some guidance, yeah.
on how many times we want him to be extending these permits. And so, you know, I'm hoping we can.
Alright.
Oh yeah, you have it.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. I forgot that was in your box.
Yeah.
So, you know, we need solutions to incentivize timely completion of projects. Is I really think what I need your help coming up with.
So have you talked to the town of Winter Park to see what their policy is?
Town of Winter Park doesn't have an expiration date on their building permits.
Maybe they should get one. It'd be nice if it was coordinated, so.
Yeah, we've done a really good job. The Builders Association helped with us to standardize code across jurisdictions. And at least in the valley here, in two towns that are so close to each other, be worth some conversation at least. But, and I agree, Margaret, if the project's next door to you in a residential area, it is a problem, but the scale of commercial is larger. If a house gets done on the outside and if there was some differentiation for that and all the work in a residential house moves indoors, it's less impact. So I just, 2 years is a long time, but it took me 5 to build my first house because it was a cash available type project. I got some feedback for sure. So it's difficult. It's a challenge. when you're
Yeah,
trying
it
to
took
build
us
your own.
5 to redo ours down
Yeah.
here that Bob did. Took 5 years.
Well, and what's the recourse if they,
Right, if it's not
yeah, if
done
they run out of money and they're like, sorry, I can't do
and
anything.
it just sits there, so what?
Yeah,
Yes. And so that, I mean, that is the problem, right?
you
So
have to re-permit the building. is
once
the-
the building
yeah.
permit expires, then they can't work on it anymore. If we see them working on it, they'll get a stop work order and get told they need to renew their permit. I'll take, for instance, the one that's been under construction since 2019. It was approved under the 2015 building code. We're
Yeah.
now to the 2021 building code, so the entire plan set now has to be redrawn. And then we also have the neighbors that are like, why is this taking so long?
Yeah,
And so, what's the right balance? And my thinking was that maybe the right balance is to give the building official some discretion to say, continue to issue those extensions, but for the projects that just don't seem to be getting done, maybe they need to post a surety, maybe they need to post a letter of credit. So, and we need to say,
You got to pull a new permit too. so,
well,
yeah.
yes, and
Yeah.
so, and as part of giving them the discretion when you pull the new permit to say, hey, we need you to, put up a surety or letter of credit or, something so that if we go another 2 years and nothing has gotten done, we can call on that to accomplish those things. That wouldn't be everything. That would just be, we've got to make a deal.
so, to make a deal, I have kind of a problem with that if we have things that aren't necessarily codified and staff is working with individuals and somebody gets an extension and somebody else doesn't, and then it comes back on the town that we're just a bunch of friggin' good old boys.
So this is
We're
why
coming
it
inside.
needs to be code, yeah, so.
So I think we have to, it's a slippery slope. I think we have to be careful with that.
So I don't think it would not be that you can't get an extension. Everybody can get an
Right.
extension. It's just we give the building permit, the building official discretion to condition that extension on security for the improvements being completed.
Why
Maybe
wouldn't we
we
just
could-
have that as a condition 2 years across the board?
We certainly could. I
And
think
it's not up to anybody's judgment, it's.
Whether it's residential or commercial.
we could certainly require that everybody post a surety. I think that where that's going to get difficult is that some people building their house are going to have trouble going,
Right.
and now they have to go get a surety bond.
Yeah, no, it's already too expensive.
But then for the ones that aren't finished, and we're saying, well, in order for you to get another extension, you have to get a surety. They don't have enough money, and that's the reason they're not getting finished.
Right.
How are they gonna post a surety?
I think maybe we should leave surety out of it. I think we already have enough fees.
Okay, but then the projects never get completed. we need some sort of security to get the projects done. Otherwise, we have projects that are
Well,
going on
then again,
for
I'm thinking-
ages.
I'm thinking residential versus commercial.
So didn't we, don't we have requirements for surety for commercial before they even begin now? Or we changed that?
No,
No.
we have sureties required for landscaping,
So
but
we-
not
so-
for
so
the,
we
not
have
for the
no-
vertical
we have no
construction.
protection that would have prevented James Peak Lodge from becoming a nightmare for us in Winter Park, so.
You'll
'cause-
forgive me, I don't know about
Well, that
James
was a
Peak
building
Lodge.
that had to be torn down by the town, and the town had surety on it, so it was paid for. So, and that
Big
was a large
steel
commercial building.
skeleton,
Yeah, it was
very large.
hideous.
Yeah,
That's where the fireside went.
Yeah.
and we had that discussion about surety on buildings because of the case here in Fraser too, so.
I thought we only had surety on the infrastructure.
Yeah, the
That's what I thought too.
infrastructure.
That's what
I
I
just
had.
like. to
Public
look into
infrastructure, yes.
Surety on commercial construction. And then maybe we can look at more extensive deadlines for residential.
And I'll go back to it. We have a case right now.
Yeah.
Where it's been under construction since 2019.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
neighbors are darn fed up with it.
I bet they are.
And so my response to the neighbors is,
Say 2, 3, 4. So I mean, even if we put like at the max a 5-year cap, everybody's saying it took me 5 years, took me 5 years to finish. You know, I don't know.
Well, two-year cycles is 4 years, and it seems like at that point, we need to have some kind of recourse from the town, so.
Okay,
I mean, I think it's reasonable to say you can get a building permit without a surety, but if you reach 2 years and you're not finished and you want to extend that, we're going to require a surety.
Yeah,
I think so too, and I mean,
That
I've
makes
built,
sense.
6 houses. And, it's not easy to get a loan. If you're a Joe Blow that's not a licensed contractor. And you have to have insurance, and that's not easy to get either. So it's getting harder and harder for somebody that just, with a tool belt and a dog, wants to build a house. So,
well, hopefully we can set up that mechanism out on the Jones property, but I did build my first house without a mortgage, so. Tore down a railroad station to do it too, so, anyway, but it's difficult, I mean, to me, I think we need to consider strongly some differentiation between the resources of a commercial builder and the resources of an individual trying to build his house, so.
I think we might run into some class-based discrimination issues
Yeah,
there. I think
yeah.
whatever we do, it has to apply to everyone.
let's ask the attorney, see what they say.
Well, and how much does a surety bond cost? I thought it was like,
It's dependent on your resources.
It can
isn't
be
it?
a lot.
I thought it was like 1% of the overall.
But that's if you're a large commercial builder, I believe the surety bond's based on, anyway, look into that.
Yeah, we'll look into
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
We'll look into it. The next one I think is hopefully kind of simple. Right now, we're required, I don't know if you knew this, but you're required to appoint a building code board of appeals. It doesn't sound like you've done that.
No.
So I would like to,
Feels like this board.
I would like to just say that instead of having another body, we just use the existing bodies we have in place. I went through the records and found that the last time someone made an appeal to the Building Code Board of Appeals was in 2017. So these clearly happen a whole lot. And so it feels like it's something that this body here could step into and handle when those needs arise.
was there a reason it should be the variance board possibly though, because of the separation from the town board or
Oh, you mean the Board of Adjustment?
board of adjustment, I mean?
That's how the county does it.
Yeah,
So
But this is the board of adjustment.
Board of-
well,
Right.
no, the board of adjustment's
same,
would be
isn't it?
different than our.
Well, the Board of Adjustment,
Because
Uh,
there's two less
Right.
people.
only
Right.
5 people on
Right.
the Board of
But-
Adjustment.
but those
We just-
two less-
We just had a Board of Adjustment meeting
Right.
last
Yeah.
month.
Last month.
But
So-
those two less have to be town board.
And we had to
members,
have
don't
5.
Right.
they? And I wonder if there's a legal reason for that, so.
we'll look into it.
okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
I still think it's fine to have a building code board of appeals be the board of adjustment because it eliminates a lot of the overlap from the
Yeah.
town board.
But we'll look into the
Yeah.
legal reasons
A
there.
little easier to get a a quorum too, so
For sure.
if it's got two less.
Yep.
All right. Efficiency is again one of the things that yeah, you know what? Ignore that. That word's supposed to be efficiency.
Okay.
Worry about that. See now. Hold on.
You gotta fix it right
I
in.
want to fix it right.
Efficacy.
Nope. Spell check isn't liking me here. There we go. There. It's all better now. No,
it's
it went back to the way.
efficacy.
That doesn't matter.
Okay.
Okay, whatever.
Right, okay.
Spell check seems to want it to be the wrong word.
Efficacy.
Efficacy.
So right now,
Done. Efficacy. Sorry.
no, you can make fun of my spelling all you want. That's
No, I
fine.
was just, I don't know what it means, FC.
Efficacy. I don't know, but
Okay.
that's the word spell check
Yeah.
likes.
Yes. it does.
So my questions, this came from the email that I sent to you all is should conditional use permits. The county calls these use by special review permits require Board of Trustees approval or just Planning Commission. In the county and every other town except for Grand Lake, they just require Planning Commission approval. They don't require Board of Trustees approval.
Could
Now,
you give us an example of a
Example,
conditional
yeah.
use permit?
things that you don't have a use by right for. So for instance, if you wanted to store porta potties on your property,
Special use permit.
Special use permit.
special use permit. We use that conditional use when other people use special use.
So would an event have, especially,
An event would be a special use permit, yes.
I mean, the only problem with making planning commission, you only meet once a month. And
Yeah,
that could be a problem if you were trying to have an event
Yeah.
or do something.
I'll just note that the code also requires that you hold a public hearing. So I still got to we still got to publish in the newspaper and send the letters to everybody within 200 feet. And, now we're going to ask them to put up a sign. So at that point, it's already taken that long. And the current process requires you to go to both. So we'd have to do the planning commission and then we'd have to do it all over again to go to the board of trustees. My question to you is, do you want to eliminate the extra step?
Yes.
Yes.
And I'll make a distinction here between a special event permit and a conditional use permit. A special event permit is to use town property. You would get a special event permit. That does come from the Board of Trustees. If you want to say, set up people to camp in tents overnight on your property, and it's private property, that would require a conditional use permit. More often, we see conditional use permits used for things like the porta potty example that I gave you a second ago, or if you're driving down US 40 into Granby, and off on the left-hand side, you see the guy with all the dumpsters. That property is subject to the county's version of a conditional use permit. We don't do this a lot in Fraser.
The circus does this, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
would make sense. Yeah.
So kind of conditional use, would you consider that temporary?
Yeah.
So something that's temporary.
Unless you're
Okay.
saying to an entity, you can store porta potties on your property indefinitely.
Yeah, and then that'd probably be a zoning change or zoning change, something.
You could accomplish it through a conditional use permit. The other thing you can use a conditional use permit for is, say you're in a medium density zone district. You can use a conditional use permit to downzone that property to low density. But to upzone it to high density, you would have to rezone the property.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
if you
Yeah.
did special use permits for events, could that be just done with staff approval and not,
I mean, the code can say whatever you want it to say.
I mean, it,
So the town, it's written in the town clerk does special events permits. And some of them are administered by the staff. And some do go to the Board of Trustees. It kind of depends on the scale, the size and where it's located.
But again, we're using
Two
two different
things.
different
Yeah,
things.
they are two different things.
well, I'm just trying to divide it up so that we don't have, I want to go for, for example, I'm organizing a hike up the trail to the bench at the film festival. Do I need a special use permit?
No.
Do I have to go to the board? Oh, all of these things that,
All right, National Forest Land.
yeah.
I would call that a chance social gathering personally.
Okay.
That wouldn't require a permit,
Okay.
but,
So Jack, just to make sure everybody's understanding
Yes.
correctly, because I think we're all questioning some of these distinctions.
Yeah.
There's certain outside storage, like your example of a porta potty, correct? But then there's
Correct.
also certain things like, I'm looking like an assisted living facility. Some of our zones would allow that as a conditional use, meaning it's not a use by right, so it has to come to the board, but it's not a temporary thing either. Like,
that's correct.
once approved, you now have that assisted living
Yeah.
facility.
So there's this big, long list of things, right?
One of the examples that we changed the code on, I think earlier this year, last year, was on accessory dwelling units.
Correct.
In some zones were a use by right and some were a conditional use. And I believe we made them all use by right.
ADUs, yes,
So it wouldn't have to come to the planning commission.
correct. And so,
So very different from the special event
Yes.
permit.
Well, there ought to
category.
be a distinction between permanent and temporary. I
Well,
mean, I think if it's a permanent use, then it ought to be a higher standard for
can't see my
review.
screen.
Yeah, good
Yeah.
point.
You can't see the screen that I was sharing. Hold on a second. So there's this big, long old list of things that require a conditional use permit, and then there's very specific criteria that govern those uses. But if you take, for instance, you go into the zoning districts,
in a way, it's like a variance because it's
it's
allowing something that is not allowed by right.
correct.
It's a permanent, it's not temporary, but it is like a variance
So
because you're,
for instance, as I'm sure we have all seen driving up and down US 40, there are a lot of people that like to engage in outdoor storage. And so the county's approach to outdoor storage, rather than beating up on everybody and saying you can't have outdoor storage, is they changed the county land use code to say outdoor storage is not a use by right. It requires their version of a conditional use permit. And so through that permitting process, they can then attach conditions
Yep.
to it to say, oh, you want to store, okay, well, it can only be on this portion of the property. You have to screen it. You have to, and then that way we're not saying you can't do it. We're just saying there are now some steps you have to take before you're allowed to do it. In Kremling, there's an outfit that currently, it's essentially a porta potty plant. And the neighbors, rightly so, were not very fond of the idea of somebody setting up a porta potty plant next to their house because it was in the residential zone district. So what the town came up with was they needed a conditional use permit so that they could set all of these conditions that the porta potty plant has to do to meet, to get along with their neighbors essentially. And so then rather, if you don't follow the permit, then we revoke your permit
Right.
instead of now we're marching into court to litigate.
yeah,
And in the county at least, special use permits have a time that they're good for, and
Yeah.
then they come up for renewal. So if and usually the first permit you're granted is a year permit so that you can see if you're gonna have blight that develops or you're gonna have complaints from neighbors. And then at the end of the first year, it comes back up, and then they usually go to a 5-year permit.
yeah, in my experience, special use permits and conditional use are different. They're not synonymous. It kind of sounds like your special use permit, because a conditional use permit is a permanent permit. It doesn't expire.
And so we could make that distinction in the code. Maybe that's what we need to do because right now they're just linked together as the same thing. So let me bring, when we come back to this conversation in the future, let me come back with some various options for you to
We
consider.
may want the board of trustees, if it's a permanent conditional use, maybe the board of trustees should be the ones making that decision, but maybe maybe that would be the bright line.
Yeah.
Yeah, major.
The
decisions.
special use permit is done by the planning commission
Yeah,
in the county.
yeah.
But normally, by the time you've gotten through the first year and it gets extended for 5 years, if it comes back up again, then usually you just let them go indefinitely then.
All right.
So
I,
what about existing businesses right now that have been operating for years with no probably permit? Just, they're not, they're doing anything.
well, we'd look at their zoning, right? And so if they're doing things that aren't in accordance with the zoning code, technically they're in violation of the law. And so what we would do is we would engage with that business and we would say, hey, let's negotiate a permit to allow you to continue doing the things that you're doing. And, you know, the carrot is we're going to let you continue to do the things. The sticks, if you don't negotiate with us, then we'll go marching into court. And the goal is to avoid the marching into court part and to get people on board.
Because I think we had major discussions, I don't know, 6, 9 months ago. I think it was mostly at the board level on, do we require people who have storage stuff have to screen it? And Clark
the-
was not happy about that because he didn't want to be screening his construction yard.
Yeah, the code does.
Kind of just backed off. And
Well, I mean, the code prohibits outdoor storage that is not screened, but it makes an exception to construction. It uses the term that is in progress. And so,
And there's a slippery slope right there. How long is the progress? Is there
as
progress?
long as
25 years.
Yeah.
And so that's why Clark isn't upset about that particular matter anymore, because he interprets that to be, well, his construction is in progress, so he can outdoor store. But, you know, we probably, maybe you do, but we probably don't want people accumulating washing machines, in their front yards. I say that because there's a property with 3 washing machines and a refrigerator in its front yard. And so again, for staff, tell me what you want so that we can articulate it. But I think that there probably is a difference between the construction yard and the washing machines and refrigerators in someone's front yard. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, that would be called blight.
That's true.
If you have a bunch of washing machines and refrigerators in a front yard, that's blight. And that's one reason why we're tackling blight in the county by requiring special use permits. Because we haven't been able to really enforce blight regulations in the county.
Because there's so much.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
neighbors
sure.
complain and then I don't know, what do you do about it? You go out and you say, we got neighbors complaining about you, but we don't have any way to really bring them into compliance easily. Unless you
so
go to
each other.
court. You want to go to court, okay. What we're doing now is we're finding all those properties that have had these extenuating years of blight complaints, and we're going in and we're saying, you need to get a special use permit to continue doing what you're doing.
Then you get some
And then
jurisdiction
as we get
issues.
into the special use permit, then you negotiate.
Yeah.
And then you talk about screening, and then you talk about blight and how you got to clean things up. Just like with the porta potties, we're getting a lot of blight cleaned up in order for them to continue to store the porta potties.
Let me bring you back some options so that we can further discuss that. How's that sound?
Yeah.
The next one, this is a question that I asked, I think, on maybe my second or third day. I know because Alan was still here. And I asked him, like, it seems like we do things a little bit backwards sometimes, where we approve a site plan before we approve a plat. And the reason why that feels backwards is because the plat defines the boundaries of a property, and the site plan determines what you're going to do within those boundaries.
I think it's a great idea to switch that and have
Yeah.
things platted first.
And so right now we have
Makes
a
sense.
whole lot of site plans without plats to go along with them. And why this matters is because you can have the plat subdivides the land, right? But we have 55% of the town is currently agricultural land. The minute you subdivide that land, all of a sudden it either becomes commercial or residential land. In either event, the property tax value related to that land goes up.
That's why the landowner doesn't like it.
That's why the landowner doesn't like it.
Which is one of the problems that we have.
That's one of the problems. So for instance,
Yeah.
the village at Grand Park is not currently platted.
On purpose, so he doesn't have to pay taxes.
I mean, I don't want to assign, intent here, but the question I'm posing to you and the options I'm giving to you, maybe we're all right with this approach. Maybe we like it. Maybe we don't. I don't know. It's not my decision to make. It's your all decision to make. What I found, I came from working in Denver, and in Denver, that you wouldn't even let the idea of a site plan enter into your brain before you had gotten a plat.
Site plan, or I mean a plat, yeah.
It was like you wouldn't even think about the word site
You
plan.
gotta have a map before you build the roads.
But when you're talking about a plat, are you just basically talking about subdivision, or are you talking about
Subdivision.
all the rest of the stuff that goes into that subdivision, the roads, is it just a plat of the subdivided properties, or you want to require all of the other things that go on a plat?
Well, I would be talking, the code outlines what goes on a plat and what goes on a site plan. And
The plat comes first.
and all I'm
Yeah.
saying is you can either do them both at the same time, or you can do the plat first. I think that let me rephrase that. My life has become increasingly complicated because we have so many approved site plans with no corresponding plat.
So
And one of the
a
things,
plat either needs to be first or come in with the site plan.
Mhm.
I think we're all in agreement on that,
Yeah.
so.
And
Yeah.
going back to steps back.
Mhm.
All right, you got the site plan, you got the plat, now you got conditions. Conditions just keep hanging out for years and years and years. And so now you have no trigger for the tax man to start coming till the conditions are met, the plats, and I think the plat should be approved when the conditions are done. So,
so let me bring you some options to accomplish that. How's that sound?
Yeah. But basically, you're right. Yeah, we considered one of the village site plans and we were confused because we didn't know how it fit into everything because we didn't have a plat. So the plat ought to at least accompany the site plan.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't.
and that should be the trigger, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, yeah.
The final approval is you've met all the conditions, we've approved the plat, the site plan is part of it.
We know that.
But
the roads
nothing is
fit
gonna
into it.
change. for
Nothing's
Grand
gonna
Park
change.
Because it's under the.
And now
annexation agreement.
You can go
Or that
forward.
will start
Yeah.
till 2028.
If we,
But the
no,
tax man is
let
coming
me
to
get to that
visit.
side.
Yes,
So
as they should.
as far as stuff that's already been approved, it's already been approved.
Yeah.
But if we make a code change, it
Mhm.
doesn't, it would apply uniformly across the town, the
Okay.
order in which the proceedings take
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
So this isn't governed under the annexation agreement. No,
Yep.
okay.
So this is,
Okay.
after the annexation
not a
agreement
vested right.
expires, the rules.
Well, remember the annexation agreement doesn't expire.
Okay.
The vested rights
Vested
expire. And the order in which you plat versus site plan is not a vested right. A vested right is zoning.
It's not in the annexation.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because this isn't a vested right.
So for example, we have construction going up.
Mhm.
Up in Grand Park at this
Yes.
point in time. And it's probably gonna result in some selling of some lots.
Well, I mean, yeah, but they need to, yeah, and that's a whole nother complicated mess that you get into there with regard to selling of lots. What I will say is that construction of public improvements requires one of the components of the subdivision plat process is the submittal of construction drawings, CDs, for the public improvements, and then their corresponding approval. And so what's happening is we have site plans, but we have no corresponding CD approval because CD approval comes at the time of site plan. I'm sorry, at the time of plat under the code.
Hmm.
And so we have these site plans saying they're going to be roads and water pipes and all these things here, but we don't have the design for those roads and water pipes and things until we get to plats. And so we run the risk of stuff has already been built because it hasn't been platted yet. So technically it doesn't become the town's until it's platted as right of way, and now it's considered a public improvement, whereas before it was a private improvement.
But do you have,
it
the
gets
engi-
squishy.
do we have an engineer out in the field trying to inspect these improvements about what he needs to, for location and standards?
I think Brad would be the first to tell you that inspecting some of this stuff is very hard.
Yeah, that's what I mean. We need to make sure that's really straightforward and they go out, just look at a sewer line that it meets the plans that that we have approved, so.
I
and
will tell you,
location.
I'll tell you that Brad, our project manager, and Greg, our engineer, are very good at inspecting to the plans.
Right.
So
but
if
they-
it's on the plan, they will make sure it gets built according to the plan. But if there are no plans,
Yeah,
it's hard to
so
inspect.
we gotta meet their needs, right? Yeah. So,
And that is something that is not an amendment to the annexation or changing the rules or whatever. That's just common sense.
yeah.
I mean, that it's a code amendment. Yeah, we'd
Yeah.
make that clear in the code,
I
but it's
mean,
not a vested
like-
right.
Like
But-
calling Tom out to inspect a house and he's got no plan for the house.
Well, Tom wouldn't let you start building the
I
house
know,
until he's
right?
seen the
Well, but
plans.
that's what we're talking, you know.
Well, and then to go back to the tax situation, I mean, both sides of the highway have played this game for years and to the detriment of the town. And so they put in roads and rendezvous and the taxes were $6. So it was under an agricultural exemption for years. And
And so again, I just need you all to tell me what
Yeah.
you want.
well,
That's
that
what
we
we
don't
want.
want.
So straighten this out.
Okay.
Yeah.
We want plats.
Okay,
So on the same subject, Grand Park's digging over there, is that? we're all-
digging over where? There's a lot of digging going on in
Well,
Grand
they're
Park.
they're digging west of the railroad tracks up in Leland Creek.
Yep.
Yeah.
For that new 72 lot subdivision.
We have we have we
Yeah.
have given preliminary approval for deep wet infrastructure in that area,
Okay,
but there is no. We have given preliminary approval for water infrastructure, subject to them providing us a master water study, which hasn't happened yet.
they're up there.
So this
digging
is
now.
getting the cart before the horse again.
Yeah,
That decision was made before I arrived at the town, so I don't want to. I can't speak to how that decision was made.
well, but was the
Was he
decision,
just doing it?
he's up there digging, yeah.
No, the there, Paul did give approval for him to be doing the work that he's doing, right?
Okay.
But that was based on a site plan, not on a plat.
I was not a
Yeah,
part of
that-
that decision making. I don't
Yeah,
know.
well, but I mean, I think this is good conversation to understand what the sequence of events are and why we haven't really addressed, these issues happen and we don't know why.
And
and now we know.
You're asking me what the right process should be, is it's plat,
Yes. we
define the
agree.
boundaries
We
of
agree.
the lots, and then as part of that process, approve the design of the public infrastructure.
Yeah.
And then, once we've done that, we move to site plan, or we do them simultaneously.
But they're up there digging in the old process, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
I would
Where
call
are
it the
you
first
seeing,
process.
where are you seeing them digging?
Oh, I can see them from my
Oh,
house.
it's a
Yeah.
huge pile,
Huge
huge pile
pile.
from the highway.
Well, they're making a huge cut. as
Jack,
far
where
as Running in
the foundation only?
No, this is Grand Park Drive, up past the.
on Grand Park
And
Drive.
I want to be clear, he has permission to do that.
Yeah,
He's not doing anything without permission.
right.
Okay,
Is
I wanna be
anybody
clear.
monitoring erosion?
BMPs
Should be.
or,
I'll bet you.
do we have regulations on BMPs or?
Oh, well, I have a slide on grading, so I don't know if we're gonna get through all my slides tonight, but there is a slide on grading.
Well, BMPs we ought to look at hard, sure, so.
If I might, just now that I've said I don't think we're gonna get through all the slides, I think we have some consensus here. And I'm gonna bring you back options. That's the
Yes.
point of
Yes.
tonight, is for you to give me some direction,
Yes.
so I can bring you
Got
options.
direction, yeah.
So I feel like I have that.
Okay.
I want to bring our attention to the FPDP, which is unique to two developments in this town, Rendezvous and Grand Park, because they're in that PD zone district. And so really what we do is we have two sets of rules. We have a set of rules for PDs, and then we have a set of rules for everything else. And so I would like to align those rules into the same process. And in doing so, the annexation agreement and the PD plans and all that still refer to this FPDP language. those are still going to exist. They're still going to be a thing that they have to do, but the requirements for them will mirror the site plan process instead of being their own process. And that way we have consistency across the board. That's my proposal.
Makes sense to me. I
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah,
It like the names will still like we're
Yeah.
still going to meet the obligations of the annexation agreements and the PD plans and then all those things.
Yeah.
We're just going to align the processes so
Right.
they're the same.
And if we get the plat first, then that makes perfect sense.
Well, what this would mean is that you can't get an FPDP until you've gotten a plat.
the
Right.
plat,
For
yeah.
instance, we have 5 West Mountain plats. I'm sorry, 5 West Mountain FPDPs
No,
that the
no.
Planning Commission has approved, but there's not a single plat.
Right.
And so you tell me what you want me to do.
We want to fix that in our code.
Yes.
please.
Yeah.
Fix
But-
it.
Wanna
I
fix
got
it.
it, yeah.
And make
Okay.
it
Fix
retroactive.
it in the code.
I don't think I can make it retroactive, but
Oh,
we
come
can make it better moving forward. The last one is, I hope, simple too. Right now, we don't require people to have proof of water and sewer service before we issue a building permit. I think we should require you to tell us that you have
Yeah.
Yes.
water and sewer, because, for instance, we have a property that happens to have been under construction since 2019 that doesn't have water or sewer service.
But he's living in it.
He would tell you he's not.
We know
So
he is.
Yeah, well, I think we know he's there. Yeah.
it's a public meeting, so he would tell you.
When we were campaigning, he was there.
I'm just saying, I think that we should be very clear that you can't get a building permit until you have water and sewer.
That's a county requirement too, so.
Okay, we're in agreement on that. Yeah.
I was, I thought when you went to get your building permit, you wrote a check for the water and sewer. I mean,
What if you're building like just a metal structure that's to cover the blight that you're being asked to cover?
I mean,
Okay.
so we would be so if you're building, the amendment to the code would say that, if you're building a residential dwelling or a commercial, something that require that you have to prove that you
habitable-
have the service.
habitable structure.
If you're building
Yeah,
a shed,
A shed.
probably not.
Yeah.
Um,
Habitable structures,
yes.
yeah.
Well, but yes, inhabitable structures. I want to talk about design review. And I think the first thing I need to do when I talk about design review is see if we can speak with some common terminology. Because there's design review that your HOA does, and then there's design review that a government does. And those are not the same thing. In the government world, at least as I have been trained, is we are looking at zoning regulations around height, around how many windows your property has, around what type of materials you can use, right? We're not telling you what colors you can paint your house or what shrubs you plant in the garden, those types of things. We certainly, if you wanted to, we could be in the business of telling people what colors they paint their house and those types of things. I will tell you, as the guy who would be doing that review and approval, I hope you don't make that decision.
No.
But we certainly could if you wanted to.
So Jack, remember we had a long presentation quite some before your time, obviously. We looked really hard at Winter Parks design review. I don't know if that presentation is still on the archives, but it was really good because there were a lot of great ideas there. They mostly dealt with shapes, massing, rough lines to, the elements of the building that really, that I think we should be looking at. So, and not style, but just ways to
Yeah.
to make buildings more interesting. So
So I
anyway,
guess my
that
question,
presentation sure got us a lot of good alternatives to look at, and then I don't know, it never really went forward. So
and that's part of my reason for having this conversation
right,
is
yeah,
how much design review do you want to do? I would caution against the, getting into paint colors part of design
Sure.
review. And that's because there's a high litigation risk. It's time consuming and well, frankly, people get really irritated through
on
that
the end of the
process.
big brown neighborhoods, basically.
My biggest
Yeah,
concern
yeah.
has to do with the
Yeah.
Riverwalk district. With it looking somewhat, not like a big mishmash of different, all these different styles of buildings. I just think there should be some consistency within the Riverwalk district. For example, now when you walk on the trail along there and you're behind that those new condos there, landscaping, it's crap and it looks awful. So that is the biggest asset we've got in this town is the Fraser River. And if we don't do something to make sure that people walking on the trail are looking at something nice, we're wasting forever that valuable asset. I feel like we need something in the Riverwalk district to make sure that what's along the river looks nice, feels good, and you're not looking at the back of some building like that's there. I just think it's really important. I think we're really wasting it. And if we don't do something, then people are just gonna put up whatever. There's no.
It's just sad that we lost the first building that could have been the example is probably the worst thing that could,
It looked
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah.
You've been up there's just weeds back there.
well, but.
They would call that
Really
nature graph.
landscaping more than,
Well, but the
Yeah.
building itself, though, we don't have there's no commercial, or there's nothing back towards the river other than decks and.
That's all I'm
Yeah.
saying. I'm just saying that before everything gets built out, I think we ought to think about what we really want it to look like. Do we?
But I don't know, Margaret, what do you think of Clark's exteriors on I won't say it, but
Well, I
Market
think it
Street
looks pretty
buildings.
good.
it does, and that's really very, and you called it Disney-like.
it's
which it
Disney,
is.
it's Disney-esque.
I'm not saying that my
That's fine.
opinion's better than anybody's, but I just think
Right.
we definitely need to look, especially as you walk along the river, that what you're looking at there is not the back of a bunch of buildings.
Yeah,
I don't think there's much to avoid with that other than landscaping in the back. And they've got land that they'll have on some of them. But it was.
Well, I know it. We've talked about it so many times and nothing has ever happened, there should be decks on those backs for people to, restaurants, so that people are looking
Right.
out over the river and they're not necessarily just facing the main street. I think the whole thing's being designed with that main street, but it's gonna be the river that gets people to come down
exactly,
to Fraser. It's the river.
yeah.
It's not Main Street Riverwalk District.
I was just in Basalt 2 weeks ago, and Basalt is a really interesting community. They had a trailer court right along the river that they scraped, I don't know, and then it sat there for years. And now they've created a park, and within the last 10 years, that town has changed tremendously. And they've done a good job because they have basically built buildings that are fire resistant. They have some new brick buildings that look like old brick buildings. They have new contemporary buildings. So it doesn't look like it just landed from space in, 2015, here it is.
Steamboats walk along the river, Yamp is nice too,
Yeah.
so.
But I mean, I think you want things that are, different. So it's not like, I mean, we all went to Avon last year. I mean, it's nothing but stucco beige boxes.
Yeah, I wasn't really
And-
suggesting that. I guess I just think we ought to look at it.
Require landscaping and the setbacks. I think that there were issues with that site in terms of the deck, there wasn't enough.
Yeah, and I remember
Yeah.
Bob brought up at the meeting, he got up and said, hey, what are you gonna do about the landscaping? Oh, we'll take care of it. Of course, there was no condition, there was nothing. Now, look at it.
So I'll take on the landscaping part, just real
Okay.
quick. They did submit a landscaping plan. It was approved. They have actually given the town surety for that landscaping. And so this summer has not been particularly conducive to growing things.
Well, they've been growing some really good weeds back there.
I've heard.
Well, yes. It hasn't been very conducive to growing nice things. And so
Plant-
I'll take the heat on that one, that I have been very flexible and generous with them, because to grow the things, they need to use a lot of water, and we've been telling people not to use water. But they did give us a landscaping plan. We will make sure they hold them to that plan.
Okay, that's fine. To me, it was just concerning because I'm going, oh, is this the way Fraser River Trail is gonna look? Down the road, what's it gonna look like? walking along through the Riverwalk district. Now, I maybe nobody else agrees with me, but I
We
just,
do.
I just feel like,
So what we could do is we could put we could go zone district by zone district, and we could add requirements where you think it's appropriate that certain zone districts have design criteria, and then we could spend some time developing those design criteria so that there are, again, some standardization to that. We could certainly look into that if that's something you would like us to do.
So what do you mean by design criteria?
So we could say, for instance, in the how I would approach this we'll take the Riverwalk district is I would ask our friends at Merrick to send us over some architects that could then sit down with all of you and understand your wants and desires for how architecture in the Riverwalk district would be. And then they would draw up criteria that would ensure that whatever is being built there meet those wants and desires.
So
Maybe
you
less,
want homogeneity, you want it all to look alike.
No,
I don't want,
no,
I don't have a position here.
that's not even what I'm saying. I'm not necessarily saying it needs to look alike. I just think, for example, there's no requirement, I'm afraid we're gonna waste the river.
Basically, like, we want two fronts to
Yeah,
the buildings.
yeah.
We want a Clayton Court front and we want a Fraser River front. On the other side of the street, we want a Clayton Court front and a Highway 40 front. So is there a way to do that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We
And
could
then you
require
play
that by
the
zone
part.
district. Well, the parking
Right.
requirements already exist. There are already existing parking requirements. So we would we would adjust the Riverwalk zone district regulations that when they come to us and you all approve their site plan,
Yeah.
there would be obligations, and if they aren't meeting them, that never gets to you because it doesn't pass the completeness stage that
so
we talked
can I
about earlier.
suggest an approach to this would be less expensive than having an architect come to cost to us, because anyway, but look at like we did before, look at these other communities, what their regulations are, their design review standards. That was really helpful when we did that before. And there was a lot of good constructive models there that we could, that'd give us some examples to look at and begin to have some specific things we could talk about, some approaches, so.
I think, visiting Basalt would be a really good exercise because this town has changed dramatically in the last 10 years and it doesn't look like this was built all in the same
Yeah.
2-year.
Yeah, you're
period.
talking
basalt
Old Town,
regulations make
basalt
this.
there.
Well, Old Town, yeah, and even, Willett's the same way.
But the salt regulations might show us how they
Yeah,
modeled that, so.
I will. So this is what Basalt has done. They have design criteria that
Yeah.
were crafted by their architects.
Let's take a look
I'll
at it.
just say that just like I'm not an engineer, I'm not an architect, so I don't feel qualified to
No,
write
I just-
regulations.
Think you
Bring
could
them.
pull together a few towns.
Certainly.
What about
Done.
what part?
Yeah, bring the models to us, that's all I'm asking, I'm not asking you to design it, I
Yeah.
just want to see what the other towns have done.
Certainly, we can do
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, you
But one thing
mentioned,
at a time.
Andy,
work
you
on my
mentioned
code.
about
Well, it's part of this design
A lot of
review.
together,
I would bifurcate the
presentation
matters, so I would
on-
No,
I would write in
we
the
looked at
code,
Winter Park
refer to
regulations.
design
Oh, okay.
criteria,
Their
and then
design review
circle back around to
and,
that.
and you had some ideas about massing and,
That's
you
what,
know,
how those are. structured.
materials
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
fire resistance and things that came out of looking at that.
Yes,
But
So
the fire
maybe we should
resistance
go back and-
changed.
And
recently.
revisit that, although we now have to have the fire resistance.
So let's do this. Let's bifurcate these issues and let me come back to you
Yeah.
with some more information and we'll go from there.
Okay.
How's that sound?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Annexation. That's our favorite word, isn't it? So, in 2018, we removed any reference to the word annexation from the code. Wasn't here in 2018. I was still in college in 2018.
Listen, I don't remember why we did that.
I don't know.
Did it have to do with,
Heartburn.
yeah. Our branch, probably.
So I would like to, we anticipate some
something there.
annexations coming down the pike. I would like to put some stuff in there, which then makes it pretty simple for you all. Here's the criteria we want you to come to the town with in order for us to consider annexation. If you meet those criteria, you get annexed. If you don't, you don't get annexed.
Well,
So,
don't we wanna
Kind of
see it-
customize?
Yeah, exactly, piece by piece. If they're coming with water rights, that's more valuable than something else, or, you know.
Not
could
everyone needs a school, but maybe the first one does.
Right, right. Yeah.
Okay. So there is, let me back up. It sounds like there's consensus that we want there to be, right now, there's no guide for staff to evaluate things with.
And how about people that are considering annexing? Nothing for them either?
right, of course, yeah.
There,
Yeah.
there's no guide for anyone.
Yeah.
And so perhaps our goal is to develop some sort of a guide, but then we keep it discretionary so that
General.
we still, you still ultimately are making a final determination relative to any annexation and any zoning and all those things, but at least provide something to get these projects started, or more importantly, when somebody shows up to the town, they call me up. This happened last week. Call me up and they say, "Hey, I want to annex." It would be really great if I had something to say. Read this part code.
So an approach that you and I talked about, Jack, was
Yeah.
Gibson's approach, and it's more of a planning approach. And so that we have some, not specific plans, but at least sketch plan type plans to look at as to what they're planning. Now, the downside of that is it removes a lot of, it's more expensive for the annexee to come in with that type of planning. But you had said you were gonna look, you have some familiarity with this gypsum approach.
I have familiarity with gypsum. I'll tell you that you've essentially created a site plan before you're allowed to annex, and I think that that will get a lot of pushback from future developers because they don't know what they want to build at the point of annexation. Usually, their ability to move to the next phase of design work is contingent on getting annexed.
Right.
And so, I think that I've looked at the gypsum requirements. Kremling actually has a very well thought out annexation chapter in its code.
Okay.
And so I think what I'm hearing is consensus that we want some guideposts in the code about annexation. And so I'm keeping good notes here about all the things that I have to come back to you with. And so just know that next meeting, you're going to have some reading material in advance that I want you to take a look at so that you can we can have a good productive conversation.
Good.
So with this, I mean, we've got some zoning, but really not much, I don't think. Once you leave the town boundary, there's no
We
zoning,
have a master plan, though.
but the master.
The comp plan would guide that, yes.
Yeah.
And then the other thing you need to think about is, for instance, Ron Jones and his property.
Yeah.
Would you want to consider PD zoning there? We have taken PD zoning out of our code, so it's not allowed anymore. But when you have these big parcels coming in, the reason why PD zoning became a thing was to help developers through that process. I don't know if we want to answer that question right now, but we should consider the circumstances under which we may be agreeable to PD zoning. Your answer could be you're never going to be agreeable to PD zoning, but it's something for you to
I
think
think
about.
that we got into trouble
Yeah.
big time with
That's
the
what we're
PD
trying to-
zone.
yeah.
So we don't want to fall into that trap again.
Check.
I'm curious of what other towns have for their guide because I do feel like it's a case by case basis. So I don't want to put guidelines around things that don't let us think outside the box.
So I'm thinking more like a process,
Okay.
not requirements,
Okay.
but more of what is the process for annexation.
Jack,
So,
if
yeah.
I could interject for just a second, my understanding is that the first step of an annexation would be an annexation agreement that would be going in front of the Board of Trustees before you get to something that the Planning Commission would be approved.
Not necessarily. An annexation agreement under state statute, an annexation agreement is not required. So that is general practice that you commit to something, you have an agreement before you pursue annexation. And that very well could be our requirement that you enter into an agreement. But right now our code is silent on it and state statute doesn't require that. So I don't think maybe I did a poor job explaining what my intent here is. It's more to create a process rather than specific criteria to say maybe the first step is you enter into an annexation agreement. And then the second step is this, and the third step is that. I'm looking for a process so that when the developers call, I can say, here's the process. Step 1 is X. Do you want to start it on step 1? Does that make sense, Sarah?
Yes, I just, in terms of where this is going first, I think in part this is a discussion that would be going to the Board of Trustees in terms of, do we want to annex them in? And in terms of that criteria where you're talking about, well, do we want a school or what do we want? I think that definitely does. Obviously, we don't need a school in each area that's annexed for the size of Fraser. But the updated town comprehensive plan does outline not kind of the specific process that you're speaking
Correct.
to here, but some of that broad criteria and how it would be evaluated, whether or not something would be annexed.
Absolutely. The other thing we have to keep in mind, while the agreement goes to the board, the state statute says that prior to an ordinance for annexation being approved by the board, it must first be recommended by the planning commission for approval by the board. And so again, this comes back to what's the order of things here? Because the state law says you go to planning with an ordinance and then you go to the board with an ordinance. Oh, but we also need this agreement. Where does that agreement fall into it? There's been some Supreme Court case law the last couple of years that says the way we've traditionally written annexation agreements is unconstitutional because annexation is a discretionary authority, so you can't commit by contract to annex a property. That's a legislative action, and you can't contract it away. That's a Supreme Court case actually that was published in June, so it's very new case law, and I think that we'll want to explore with Kent and Cooper kind of how we structure that type of thing. But before we went down that path, I wanted to know if that's even something you wanted us to explore. And Sarah, maybe this is something you and I need to talk more in depth about.
Yeah, I think so. Because the planning commission obviously is the critical body once you start talking about zoning and what's actually kind of going into those, whether they're planned developments or not. But in terms of that initial piece, I think that's a wider discussion for sure.
Okay. Let's why don't we do this? Why don't we take annexation out of our chapter 19 conversations and have that separately when the time is right?
I think that makes sense. Yeah.
How does that feel with the rest
That's
of you?
good.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've lived in the community since 2011. Okay. And when I got here, I thought our position on annexation was we don't ever want to do that again.
No,
Don't
no.
anybody come and talk to us about it because we're not annexing.
Never been
We
the
even
position.
voted it down.
That was not the position.
But that's kind of the perception I've had all these years is that, we're not really interested in people coming to us with opportunities to annex more land into Fraser. So I think Jack hit the nail on the head when he said, a developer who's got an idea and he's maybe got an option on property, he's not going to come to the mayor or the board of trustees to negotiate with them first. He's going to talk to the town planner, the engineers in the area. He's going to have those staff level conversations first before he ever gets to trying to schmooze the town board of trustees to get their approval to put it. And then do we put it on a vote for the public, or does the board of trustees just act?
The
So
Board of Trustees needs to act.
Yeah,
they need to act. I agree. So I think Jack's approach is right. It's a process we're looking for, not specific step by
That
step.
makes sense.
But now when somebody comes to us, we got a process And it starts with Jack and his staff, perhaps, if that's where.
I'd love
First
staff.
phone call.
Yeah.
Love staff.
Yeah, Jack and staff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it starts probably with a phone call into the town of Fraser staff and discussions about, well, what does your code say about annexation and stuff like that? So I kind of think that you come back to us with your process and then we'll flesh
I
that
thi-
out.
Yeah, I think that this needs to be a separate conversation than the rest of our code amendments. So
Yeah.
we'll bifurcate that and come back all together on it.
Good.
I'd like to talk next about fences. My question first, before we get too long into this, is do we want to regulate fences? Because right now, code regulates walls that are over 4 feet. Those require a building permit. But then, in the next sentence, it says that fences aren't walls. Then in another section, it says that a building permit is required for a fence over 7 feet. Couple of sections later, it says that a building permit is required for a fence over 6 feet. So I've got fences aren't walls. We only regulate walls.
And what is a wall?
Does
Well,
it
it's
say?
a good question. Structural and it's 4 feet because of the structural integrity.
Correct. But then I have,
Walls are
but if you're
structural.
over 7 feet, you need a permit. And then in another section, we have 6 feet. And then we have straight out in another place that says the town doesn't regulate fences. So tell me, do you want to regulate fences?
Well, in Rendezvous and in Grand Park, I believe there's no fencing allowed.
In Grand
Not
Park,
entirely
you can have a short fence.
Yeah,
But the goal was to allow wildlife to move freely in the yards.
Like
And
bears
that was,
can-
now I could see maybe in Old Town that being a little different, but you know,
We've got a bear cruising quite nicely through Old Town Fraser.
Ours too, yard every
Every
morning,
night, yeah.
every morning.
Yeah, the,
If I might add additional color
I
here,
think you should just clean it up
if I might add some
Just like
additional color
walls.
here,
and then permit over fence over 7 feet.
But I do
That's
think
an obstruction.
if you're gonna get a fence over 6 feet tall, you ought to have it permitted, though, Katie, it gets structurally, it's pretty tough
Okay.
to get a fence to stand up, it's that
I
tall,
make it
so.
just that simple.
Yeah.
so if
but
I
not
might
required.
add another thing, is we have a lot of people who keep building fences in the right of way.
Yeah,
And because we don't regulate fences, we don't find out that the fence is in the right of way
Yeah.
until it's already been built. Or usually it's Brad is driving down the street and sees people building and goes, no, 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 that's the right of way. And then there's a fight and an argument and people's bosses get called and then it's the whole thing. And so
Yeah.
maybe
That's
just
true.
a process that set, you tell me what you want to do, but maybe a process that says, if you want to put a fence in, you need to get a permit just so we can make sure you're not putting it in the town's right of way and it's not sitting on top of a water line. And so it's going to be in the way when we need to install your new water meter.
that
Yeah.
makes sense.
I
Yeah,
think that
yeah.
my friends in Public Works would really appreciate some
Yeah,
clarity like
totally.
that.
I like
That
that.
makes total
Yeah.
sense.
Like that.
All right. Fences.
And maybe, yeah,
Not in
maybe
the front
define
yard
what a
either.
wall is.
I would love to define what a wall is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would love to fix that we have 7 feet and 6 feet in places. So,
Yeah.
Six
6 feet.
what's
yeah,
what's our
make it
question?
6.
6
Make
feet?
it 6.
Six
Okay.
feet. That's standard.
Yeah.
That's great. Oh, we're almost done. We might actually get through all the slides.
Great.
Fees. We have this provision in code that says people can request a fee waiver, but it doesn't say who approves those waivers. So my question to you is, who should approve a fee waiver?
What kind of fee waivers are we talking about?
So the code says that, so we have application fee requirements.
Yep,
For all of our land use applications. And the code says that the town may waive the fee. But it
Why
doesn't
would
say who or for what purpose.
why would we even waive them?
Nonprofit or,
Nonprofit.
yeah,
Probably.
Yeah, or a
a s-
affordable
school.
housing project or.
But we're not talking water or sewer.
No, we're just talking about the land use
planning fees,
application
and-
fees.
yeah. Review fees.
So, and I'll just add another bit to it. If you want to go, if you want it to be, you know, the Board of Trustees or the Planning Commission that approves those fee waivers, then they would still have to pay the fee to be able to get before you, because otherwise their application is not complete. And then we would have to issue a refund. And so our finance director has told me in much more colorful language than this, that she thinks that's a really bad process.
Just have Brian do it, so.
It's a rubber stamp. No.
It could be that simple. The mayor can approve a fee waiver. It could be staff approves. You tell me.
I don't want
Well,
that
I
power.
think
No,
we
I know,
wanna
just staff, yeah.
distinguish too between in terms of the good old boys club versus not. If there's specific
Right.
criteria laid
Yeah.
out for when somebody gets a waiver, then that seems like a very appropriate staff approval. Like if it's an affordable housing development that fits in the program versus something that's left up to discretion without
On,
those.
on that
opening
note, though, what if
criteria.
we're just trying to encourage development in a specific zoning area? Would it take a change of code to say, if you're building in the Riverwalk district, you can request this waiver, or could that be a resolution?
Was that part of
for a
our
period of
incentive
time?
program?
Yeah, that was the incentive program we passed, so it's
Yeah.
a separate process.
I think
to
that would
obtain,
be
so-
part of your.
So it would be a resolution,
Yeah,
not a code amendment.
Yeah.
Okay.
But still, they'd have to pay the fee. Come before you with their application, you grant their fee waiver, and then we refund the fee.
no, the fee waiver
So-
program that we had before was pretty well, it was specified and the staff was I believe that was done at staff level.
It was, but Kent has told me that we were not following the code when we did that.
Okay, well, so my suggestion is that we look at, what the staff feels would be eligible 501c3s, schools, whatever you make a list of who you think might be eligible for fee waivers.
So you want,
Bring it
you
back.
want to create some criteria,
Criteria,
and then
yeah,
staff would apply
yeah.
the criteria.
Yep.
right.
Well, and sorry to interject again. We also, as an example, have a economic incentive program on the books that has been approved by the Board of Trustees that allows for request or granting of fee waivers. But those are packages that are requests that go to the Board of Trustees
Right.
for approval, and the
Doesn't
Board of
change,
Trustees
right.
would approve
Yeah.
it. So I think it really does depend on what fee waiver
Exactly. And
we're talking about
the reason why I brought
or
this
why
up,
it's being waived.
yeah, the reason why I bring this up is last month, the Board of Adjustment hearing, you all granted a fee waiver for that variance. That was in your resolution.
Or the art.
But
Yeah.
before I could put that application on the books, they had to write us a check for a $1,500 fee. And so now we have to refund that fee. And that is what resulted in Lori's very colorful response
I'll
to
betcha.
her thought of having to give money back.
So do some criteria and
Yeah.
bring it back, yeah.
Okay.
So, public good, nonprofit, public good.
Public
But
good.
but
is
as far as these,
Settle to very, yeah,
What does that mean?
yeah.
But as
Right,
far as
somebody
these-
could claim it.
as far as these lump sum type things we already have, these have to come back to the trustees as specific programs that are approved, so it's a case by case basis.
Oh, boy.
We built the broom hut up on Berthoud Pass, for instance. Margaret and the county gave us a fee waiver on the building permit. So, those are the type of things that's a public use building. It's a nonprofit, so
Who gave you the waiver?
the county did.
What person?
We had to get it from the commissioners, I believe. I remember.
You had to go to the commissioners?
Yeah.
Well,
Many moons ago.
he don't want that responsibility.
I don't want,
He don't want it. So maybe it just.
as I told
Come
Sarah yesterday, I don't want more work. I want
let the planning
fewer
commission
things.
do it. Give us some more, give us some more.
Work. So landscaping, you talked about this earlier.
Yeah.
So the landscaping provision of the code only applies to PD districts and business districts. So technically, there is no landscaping requirement in the Riverwalk district. Would you like there to be?
Yes. Yes, I will say.
Others?
Yeah. And I'd also like our landscaping to requirements to start reflecting drought
Yeah.
So no Kentucky
plants
bluegrass?
and all that, and reducing the amount and things that require low water.
So we-
Yes.
And fire code, I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
Right.
pulling landscaping out of my house, which my husband's not real excited about because he's very proud of it, but the house is going to burn down because of his landscaping.
So we would call that fire-wise. So,
yeah.
how fire-wise do we want to get? Because a truly fire-wise community, there's this national program called Fire-Wise,
Right.
would say, no Kentucky bluegrass.
Right.
There is to be
Okay.
no vegetative fuel within 100 feet of any dwelling. So I'll tell you, the town hall is currently non-compliant. So how fire-wise do we want to get?
We are also have fire hydrants really, really close. So I think that's more for rural areas without fire hydrants, I would imagine.
No, because
Reconstructed.
fire hydrants are not going to prevent a conflagration fire like happened in California.
Yeah.
But 100
Like
feet
with the
means the
stars.
entire Old Town has no plants in it,
Right.
no,
Right.
no shrubbery.
Yeah.
Or at least.
Well, there
conifer
are
trees.
some that are more.
Could we just
Just-
do landscaping requirements on unit properties?
Not single-family homes.
Right.
You want single-family homes to not have landscape requirements?
I mean, it's pretty hard to enforce.
Oh, Brian, you have not yet felt the wrath of Jack and enforcement. If you want me to enforce something, I will make it happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
Boy,
But I'm not thinking fire-wise on this. I'm just thinking like, do you want the property to look nice? And I think that's kind of against Fraser's history to say, hey, put some shrubs into your yard.
yeah,
You
no,
know?
no, I
So,
don't think we should need to do that.
but we can do that for properties that have commercial space, or
Common space.
common spaces for,
which is
condos.
multifamily.
How many units? Like duplexes, single family? Where do you want that cut off?
That's a good question.
Noodle on it.
Yeah.
Multifamily.
Yeah. But I mean, a duplex still has a yard, like their own yard. So it'd have to be a condo, a condominium complex or apartment building.
Or townhouses.
And at this stage, we don't want
As long as
trees
they don't-
between buildings. Maybe aspens. I think that.
Yeah. But
Aspens
I
is
mean, you
fire
just like,
retardant.
just,
Yeah.
there are some plants that are
But
more
then they-
fire wise than like a juniper.
Oh,
you know,
yes.
like that.
We're talking.
So I go back to my previous question about how about this? Let's there's no wool. I will draw up some options. And then we can further discuss those. Because there's a community in Summit County that's gone completely fire-wise. And I drove through there over the weekend.
Does it look
There's a
like
lot of
desert?
rock.
Yeah.
There's a lot of river walk.
Desolate
It's
landscape.
it's the parched earth over there.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're heading towards parched earth. We run out of water, it's real. So if we can figure out ways to plan for that with
So we have a prohibition on
hopefully not.
non-functional turf. So the planting of grass for the sake of planting grass, we prohibited, unless you're the school district, I guess.
Adopted Firewise to some degree for the town, didn't we?
You adopted the wildfire resiliency
Yeah.
code,
Okay.
which related to building
The state.
materials.
State regulated.
Gotcha.
Firewise is, we have goats now in Rendezvous.
And that's awesome. The goats are
They're
wonderful.
very cool.
So back to my grass question.
Yeah.
Do we want to put a blanket prohibition on Kentucky bluegrass for your water concerns, Katie? Or do we want to say, and so then my next question is, what about the people that already have the Kentucky bluegrass?
Well, we grandfathered in and then hopefully. they-
So just no new Kentucky bluegrass.
And if it dies, we get to
New
replant.
construction, yeah.
Well, and what's the definition of new construction? If you're doing a renovation on your house, does that mean you have to take out Kentucky bluegrass?
No, but, so there is a code required.
Well, they've got a law.
You get to a certain threshold with renovation when you've got to meet the code. And that's set in the building code regulations,
Mhm.
So,
We can
but a remodel obviously wouldn't meet that threshold, but if it's like 60% of your house, at that point, you've got to meet current codes for the entire house, so. That's set in the building code, so. But
Right.
I-
We'll
but
draw up some options for you.
I do think we really need to focus on drought resilient, sustainable landscaping though, because I spent the whole day with Northern Water yesterday on their wonderful tour. And there wasn't talk during the whole day. They were so proud that they're only allowing 80% use on their taps down in the Front Range this year, in view of us losing, of Siskiyou Farms having to sell their cattle off because they can't forage them anymore. We've got to start setting an example here. And we've got a limited groundwater resource. We've got a limited resource for water in the community too. So,
I was down in Denver and I saw a lot of green grass.
yeah.
A lot of green grass. So, okay. Do we want to talk about outdoor storage right now? The code currently requires screening of outdoor storage. The enforcement of that requirement is kind of lacking.
It's been very challenging.
And so, A, would you like to keep that requirement that outdoor storage requires screening? And if the answer to that first question is yes, then I would like some guidance on how you would like us to enforce those obligations, because our code enforcement friends reached out to me and said, hey, we got outdoor storage. What do you want us to do about it? And I said, I'll get back to you.
It's so hard because there's so many different things that.
Right.
There was
there's
actually a
so
lot
many
more that
different
happened
things you
after that.
can't Put fences around, and I think a lot of that came from our issues with the liquor barn, and they managed to get rid of everything
It
It
pretty
was
much.
much
was a
better
little
too.
around, but anyway, it was a lot cleaner than it was.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean,
Anyway.
there are some businesses that have, because there isn't any, or, any regulation, they could build a fence and have a 6x6 enclosed area and probably solve their problem, but instead of that, they've got it spread out all over the whole back of it.
I'll go back to my comment from earlier about the guy that's got,
Uh-huh.
2 washing machines and a refrigerator. And I thought at first
It
it
is
was a
black.
washing machine and a dryer, but no, it's actually 2 washing machines. There was no dryer and a refrigerator.
Hmm.
Well, what do we
Well-
do about those?
I like Bob's approach that the county's taking, is that they go to these owners and
Does that fit with
And
our
talk-
junk ordinance that we have? 'Cause that's junk. Not functional. That would
I
fit in
think
our junk
what-
ordinance.
Wasn't that the nuisance ordinance that we
Yeah,
passed like
junk-
3 months ago or something?
Nuisance.
The
Yeah, that
news-
should be covered under that because it's junk. It's not serving a purpose.
I'll tell you that the nuisance ordinance doesn't actually cover that.
Huh.
Nuisance is defined. I'll share my screen here.
Barking dogs.
Nuisance is defined: discard or abandon any of the following: storage of construction or building materials unless materials are neatly stacked and organized. Can someone define neatly for me?
A safe way on the side.
Okay, Gary.
But again, if
Someone would not meet the fire code even having logs at your house is.
Borderline.
problem.
Yeah, we have the 20 feet away from our house.
abandoned, discarded, or unused objects or objects that are no longer being used for their intended purpose, such as indoor furniture, mattresses, bed frame, all right, appliances, all right, so we could do that. But again,
That's good.
what if the guy says that he is running a scrap
Does he have a license to do
appliance?
that?
I don't know.
Got a conditional use
Conditional
special
area.
permit?
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
He needs to get a conditional use.
you'd have to prove that he has a
Permit.
business license.
I think
Yeah.
we have that covered. That particular instance. But
you'd have to pull a permit for the storage.
so where were we?
Yeah, where,
Go back to your slide.
I guess I'm just looking for some direction here on how you want us to,
Oh, on fencing,
on outdoor storage.
outdoor storage.
well, let's see. Let's,
We could take the county's approach and just start pushing everyone toward these conditional use permits.
I mean, Jack, if I may, I would say to some extent, I think if it's in our code, we should be enforcing it. If we don't want to enforce it, then I think there's the discussion of does it need to be in the code?
Thank you.
But I think we can have a staff conversation about what that looks like, unless the planning commission wants to weigh in on changing the code.
Yes, and I think more of my question was,
That's relative.
do you
to
like the current
so-
code? We will enforce whatever is in the current code. Don't get me wrong. We
And
will
the current
enforce.
code
So-
includes residential, it's not just business.
Correct.
Yeah.
And again, even with these slides, if you were to reference the page and the area that we look at in our code, just to make a note.
These are conceptual,
I
big
know,
picture.
but you're asking it questions, do you like our current code? And I don't know,
The
because I
current
haven't read this.
the current code prohibits outdoor storage. And so my question to you, it doesn't prohibit it. It requires outdoor storage to be screened.
Yeah.
And so unless it's an active construction site. And so my question to you, are you satisfied with that? And it sounds like you are.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fine.
I mean,
I think it
Well,
makes
things
the-
like
the
that.
We
issue-
definitely can't say no to fences then.
No, the issue we got into with some of the properties in Graham County was when you say outdoor storage must be screened. Well, what does that mean exactly?
Right.
You know, and so the way we've approached it with the special use permit is that to get the special use permit, one of the requirements is they have to submit a screening plan along with their application for the special use permit, so that we can have a chance to weigh in on what the screening is going to look like, what materials they're going to use, how high the screen's going to be.
I like that approach.
Yeah.
And I also think that we don't want to have a whole bunch of fences all over the place. And if we can accomplish screening with a berm and a bunch of bushes and some trees, that's probably more visually. And so this is our problem.
need watering. A berm requires a significant area. I mean,
Okay, maybe,
It's like that house. on
but it's not
Highway 5.
necessarily a
Yeah,
fence.
it's not the same.
but,
Yeah.
But
okay,
you know, just I mean, like totes for our distilleries and breweries, they are fairly large. And what do you do with those? You know, you gotta have them. Where are you gonna put them? And how do you know, and then you got the barbecues, and then you've got the pallets, and then pretty soon it just looks like a junkyard.
not to,
Let's
speak
be
about any
Fraser.
particular property in particular, but
They've
Um,
cleaned up an awful lot over the years.
so
I think we could let this go for a bit, but like you said, you know.
what I hear you
county
saying,
does.
and I didn't mean to say that if we didn't, we're going to enforce what the code says. So the message I'm hearing from you all is that we like what the code says. And so we will continue to enforce the code.
And Jack, talk to the code enforcement officers. You have been, I mean.
Oh yeah, they like to call me.
So maybe there's some specific ideas of language that would help them with enforcement, so.
They
Yeah.
would like a definition of the word neatly.
Okay. That we should change. I agree. But other than that, I mean, nuisance code is non-specific. We tried to make it very specific. I
So-
agree the word neatly is subjective, so
So we'll go back to code enforcement and we'll get some more specifics from them.
So,
Like in terms of some
in
of
the-
these specifics, I mean, this is part of what we're working on with Kent right now, correct? I mean, I know I was just having a conversation with them about the nuisance code and defining how
Well,
many seasonal tires can be stored outside.
I didn't know that was part of our plan for that. I thought we were targeting unsavory behavior in open space. But if we want to wrap those into them together.
They're
like-
in there and it's part of what was, we can talk more offline about that, but
Yeah, let's talk more about that because they were adding to that and then we weren't changing the existing stuff. We were adding to it and then there were we'll circle back around. Okay. Outdoor storage. We're almost done. Lights. This is the very last one. Our code requires dark sky lighting in the PD, business, and industrial zones. It does not require it in any of the other zone districts. Would
I
you
think
like?
all new construction should be required to have
Yeah,
I think
dark sky.
I think we should have sunset period on it. And even residential, if you're not dark sky compliant, we should put in some sort of rebate system. Town will rebate 30% or something like that. I think we should be fully dark sky compliant.
yeah.
I do too.
okay, we'll bring you some options on that.
Yeah, and
I guess
Brian,
it's
we've been
representatives.
talking as a staff about this, because it's been on the list for a long time now and it has not risen to the top of the priority list. Just as a point of reference, I think there's varying degrees. So what we've kind of talked about is bringing to the board. These are kind of the varying degrees of dark sky compliance we could pursue. What does the board want to see, and kind of providing some of the associated proposed timelines and budgets. Breckenridge, as an example, went through the full dark sky compliance process, like the official certification. And their timeline, as I understand it, to fully get kind of stuff that was grandfathered in compliant with the lighting was 15 years. And they warned that it was much more of a political storm than you might ever expect in
Yeah.
terms of getting individual property owners to put in that dark sky compliance. So I'm not saying that we should not pursue it, but just that I think there is some more kind of conversation to be had and looking at what grade, like, do we really want that certification grade or somewhere in between, and what really is an appropriate timeline and incentive to expect that grandfathering in.
But I think that I don't want to say easy, but I think it's very doable to say all new construction needs to be dark sky
Yeah.
compliant. Because right now it's only PD business and industrial. So we can say anything that's new. We have a good definition of new. And then maybe we circle back on existing.
You could say new and renovated if it exceeds that.
If you replace your lights, they have to be dark sky.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If you're doing outdoor renovation of your structure, and I don't know, is there something in the building code that says if it's more than a certain dollar value or more?
My friend, the building code is like 1,000,000 pages long. I'm sure there's something in.
Something in, yeah, I would say renovations, new.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree.
How
that-
about being proactive and going to homeowners association, explaining that this is our code?
I can go on a road show, sure.
Well, I just, there's multiple filings in Rendezvous that they bought the cheapest lights you could buy at Home Depot, and then they put them on everybody has them on all day, all night, because
And they shine
They
out.
don't live there and they want to pick
Yeah.
somebody's.
Is that light trespass? And is that something that should be addressed in this?
Well, that's part of it.
Also-
Yeah.
Part of
that-
dark
that's
sky
dark.
Because-
compliant.
Well, there's dark sky that goes up, but there's that trespass.
But
of
they
light.
want it, dark sky is just focused down.
Yeah,
So it's a down light that doesn't leave your property.
And the other thing that Paul and I spoke about actually today is we're going to explore with the town streetlights if there's a way to set those to dim over a period of time so that at 3 o'clock in the morning they're not the same brightness as at
it's a good idea.
7 o'clock in the at night.
Mhm.
There's going to be a cost to doing that, but we're going to explore what that is.
Good. Yeah. What does dark sky compliant say about like lights that are shining on a building? Like
No,
No.
just
No,
absolutely not.
they have to be down and
And
to
covered one
all that.
direction.
yeah.
Mhm.
right.
So, like signs that have lights shining up on them
Yeah.
would be a no-no.
Okay.
I don't
Just-
know if you installed them or not, Brian, but these lights that are permanent Christmas lights underneath the eaves, are those dark sky compliant or?
I'd have to look. I don't
Yeah,
think they
yeah.
are.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And can lights within your eaves and all that's not dark sky.
Yeah.
Well, if they're shining down,
But they also have this cone that travels.
Anyway, I have to look at it some more.
yeah.
There are standards. I mean, we require in all of the site plans, we require a lighting plan that includes the cut sheet. And I've learned a lot about lights over the last couple of months. So
Well, we're allowed to cut it loose during Christmas, right? I mean,
I am not
Like
gonna
Chevy
enforce
Chase.
that. I'm not doing that. That's it. We're done.
All right.
Anything we're missing?
Jack, just to circle back on the question, I did look it up during the discussion about the Prop 123.
Oh, thank you.
It is a final decision of project approval with conditions or denials issued within 90 days after acceptance of a completed application. So you can have conditions. I think you do want to be careful that there's not so many conditions that it's not really an approval, but I think any reasonable conditions that you would typically require can be part of that approval process.
What I miss?
And what level of work, what level of attainable, affordable housing is it? Is it like all units in a complex or?
I should have
This
looked
is-
that up. 'Cause like I
okay.
said, I know Prop
Curious.
123 has their definition,
Yeah,
and then I
that's fine.
believe we kind of worked with.
Cause we use those funds for our third building.
What do you know what the Prop 123 is off the top of your head?
I don't. I could find that and send it out.
We'll share it with everyone.
But it's a certain number of units at a certain percentage for a project, so it does not have to be 100% of units.
Okay,
You could have a project that had 20 units and it's a certain percentage.
gotcha.
The our incentives, I actually just was looking at those earlier today. It says at least 20% of all dwelling units within the development are deed restricted in perpetuity using the Town of Fraser Standard Deed Restriction Covenant. The units shall be restricted for occupancy by households earning a set area median income based on the following criteria. I'll spare you the following criteria, but our current code says 20%. We will find out what Prop 123 says and if we need to
I
change that.
believe, don't quote me on this, I believe Prop 123's is actually 50%, and for rental, that would be at or below 60% AMI, and for sale would be at or below 100% AMI.
Wow.
So we are actually extending it more generously to try to incentivize more of the affordable housing that we might expect to actually see
Yeah.
a private developer working on.
Gotcha. It would be subject to the.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
finding.
Yes.
Can I
that
ask,
concludes my presentation.
All right.
Well,
can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Of
Questions?
Winter Park, if I could. So I read in the newsletter, your newsletter that you guys put out, which is excellent and online. Does the town levy a fee per square foot on new construction?
Introduce yourself for the record.
uh-huh.
Brian Kelly, Fraser resident. We do. We have,
$2?
I think it's $3 a square foot.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that, but I think that's the number that's sticking in my head right now. For new construction that actually, we also have the RETA for affordable housing, which is an option. So they can forego the $3 a square foot for the RETA, which goes to the real estate transfer, in the sale of subsequent homes. And it's in perpetuity kind of thing. So every time a unit sells, a portion of that RETA will go towards affordable housing.
And the fee goes to affordable housing.
And
then?
the fee
Yeah.
goes, can be right up front, X number of square foot, $3 a square foot, one-time deal, you're done. But we prefer the RETA because this allows further funding every time a house sells or a unit sells.
But the
And-
developer chooses one or the other.
Correct.
Interesting.
So they can take the
That's
cost on right up front as a developer, and they may not want to lay out that much money. And I said, well, in that case, we're gonna go the RETA route and charge a fee each time
Good
the
idea.
unit sells. So they'll
Plus
build
the-
it,
Plus the first
sell it.
time it sells then, when the developer sells it, then that
Yeah,
RETA
and it
fee.
can-
Goes
There's
on
some
in perpetuity.
negotiation that goes into that.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know how I missed it.
That's a thorny question, but we're talking a few thorny questions, but
Yes.
Yeah.
anyway.
Thank you.
You had a
Can I
So the residents-
just circle back to the screening question?
Okay.
And we have a procedure that people could come to the board and request money to fix up their exterior. And I don't think we've ever granted anybody money for screening, which maybe could solve some of our issues.
Maybe, Hilly? Remember when the fence, we had
Yeah.
a whole, didn't he get some money to put that fence around where he was storing his cars?
I don't
know.
remember that.
No.
I mean, I remember the discussions about it, all the cars he had on that lot.
Yeah,
There was never a fence put up, but he did clear out the lot
Yeah.
and now
okay.
he no
I just
longer
thought
owns it.
that was one thing. I remember. it
Well, I
came-
do think that we've got several businesses that could benefit from that, and that's probably not been on the list of what's considered
Enhancement, yeah,
Enhancement.
yeah.
That's
which-
true.
Okay, any other questions from the commissioners? If not,
Can I,
Thank-
can I add one more thing?
yes, go ahead. Jack.
This
This will be the last thing you'll add.
this is,
Here's the hammer.
you can just reach over and whack me.
Whack-a-jack.
We want to put on your radar, that some of your terms, and Antoinette has that list, and although I promised her I would commit it to memory, I failed. There are some of your terms that are going to be expiring soon, and,
There's after the 2026 election in November, there's 4 seats that are expiring. And that is Bob, Andy, Margaret, and Katie Souls.
so if you want to stick around, let us know. If not, we're gonna challenge you to find your replacement.
All right.
Now I'm done.
Okay. Thank you, Jack, for the discussion you led tonight. I think it was very helpful and you'll come back to us with more options for us to consider next month.
And we appreciate your work on that.
Yeah, we
It's
do.
awesome.
Yeah.
Uh, at this point, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Meeting is adjourned at